Hello, Sandra Razielli here with a little bit different scenery. Today I'm in Golden Valley, Minnesota. I'm standing next to this tree that my father planted. It's a birch tree he planted about 40 years ago, and it's inspiring the practice I'm going to share with you today, which will be how to build and practice tree pose. So to start, I'd like you to have 2 blocks and a strap, and something to stretch your calves if that's a block or something else, whatever works for you. And let's just go right into it and check out right now where your tree pose is. How does it feel? Not just the balance, but the whole aspect of it. So go ahead and bend your left knee, spiral the thigh, take your foot below or above the knee, and check it out. How does the foot feel? Lengthen the spine. Balance, of course. Balance is easy. Try closing your eyes. Not as easy. And release or fall down. Back to center. Second side, bend the knee, spiral the thigh. Foot, the place that feels right for you. Just sensing where you are right now, at this moment. Eyes open, eyes closed. On the first side, we didn't take the arms up. You might take the arms up. Check how that feels. All right, and then release. Give a little shake and a little shimmy. And roll your shoulders a few times. Time to stretch the calves. It's pretty early in the morning right now where I am. Some people are going on their morning walks. I think stretching the calves is a great thing to do in the morning, but as many of you know, I think it's a great thing to do throughout the day. So first, find mountain pose. Hips over heels, right? No bananas. Hips over heels. Lower ribs in line with your hip points, and then take your foot onto whatever lift you have. And again, bring the hips over the heels and take a moment, find the spot where you can breathe and balance. Feel free to hold on to a tree or a wall to help. Sometimes this can get one off balance. And then release. Take a moment, feel the difference. And then second side. Take your foot up the lift. Find the balance, hip over heels. Grounding down to root. Lift up. Breathe. And then release. Again, feel a moment. And then, I don't think I've done this that often in my videos. I'd like you to stretch both at the same time. So take both feet onto the lift. And then it's definitely a little harder to have the hips over the heels. Play with that balance. Breathe. And then a slight bend in both knees. It's going to stretch a little bit different part of the calf. Generally an area called the soleus. And then re-extend their legs. Bring your hips to your heels and slowly hinge forward. Again, as you hinge forward, notice if your thighs roll in towards each other. Encourage the knees to stay forward as much as works for your body. A lot of that will come from the external rotation at the top of the thigh bone. All right, and come back up. Put the block off to the side or the lift off to the side. Take a moment, mountain pose. Feet grounding, spine lengthening. Hips over heels. Go ahead and roll the shoulders a few times up and around. Get into that space between the shoulder blades. Wiggle your jaw as you do so. And then take your feet a little bit wider than hips distance apart. So tree pose, of course, has a lot to do with hip mobility. So circle your hips. Let's do 4 times, one direction, and then switch directions 4 times the other direction. And then grab a strap. So in order to get our trunk nice and long, we have to wake up some of the muscles along the back of the spine. Take the your strap between your thumb and forefinger. Take the strap on up. Feel your feet grounding down. Encourage the spine to lengthen up. Breathe here. Be here. Hips over heels. Lengthen from the side ribs. Do a little side bend. Lift up the left arm. Side bend over to your right. Go ahead, look at the left arm. And then use the left arm to pull you back up. And then do the second side, if that's appropriate for you, or if you're working with your extra curves and working with your thoracic spine, do that same side again. And release. Feet grounding, spine lengthening, and begin to take the strap behind your back as you keep the spine nice and long. Just hold there for a moment. Take the arms back up and release. Good. Take the strap over to the side. A few more circles with the shoulders. Feet wide. Can you keep circling the shoulders up and back as you circle the hips around? It's a little brain game. Keep the shoulders circling the same directions, but circle the hips the other direction. And then bring your feet a little closer together. And so that was circling the hips while keeping the knees straight. When we bend the knees, we can access the hips a little differently, where we're just really moving the pelvis. So with your hands on your hips, draw a circle with your pelvis. You might think of your sit bones, drawing a circle on the ground, as if there are lasers coming out of your sit bones, laser lights. And then switch directions. And then root down to lift up. So mountain pose, or, well, this is a 3-legged tree, or a 2-legged tree. Grounding down to lift up. And then make our way down to the ground. Have your strap within reach. Get there any way that works for you. And lie on down. Exhale. Take a little time with your breath. Notice what you're seeing when you look up. I'm seeing leaves of this tree right now. And I'm noticing the tree. Each trunk is going in its own direction. And now make the breath a little more active with your next inhalation. Encourage an expansion in all directions, belly, waist, back. As you inhale, let your jaw soften. Again, inhale with expansion. Exhale, let go. One more time. Inhale, expand. Exhale, let go. Go ahead and extend the legs onto the ground or the floor. Find your strap. Reach for your heels. Sure the blocks are not in your way behind you. Inhale, take your arms overhead. Another breathing, reaching, stretching experience. And then bend your right knee towards the chest and take your hands towards the knee. Keep the left leg active for a moment, or for now. Reach through the left heel. And very slow, very small, circle the right leg. Often I do this with the other knee bent, which actually makes it easier in many ways to take bigger movements. But just right now, very small. I'm actually putting my left hand on my left hip point, stabilize the pelvis. Just like in tree pose, we want the pelvis to be stable as we rotate the thigh. That's one of the challenges that often happens in tree pose, is some rotation in the pelvis that puts strain on some of the joints of the sacroiliac. So the sacroiliac joint. So can you keep the pelvis stable as you circle? Switching directions. And then release. Now, one thing I had realized that when I was circling, it's really good to wake up the belly to help with the stabilization. So before we do the other side, we'll do a little bit of grazing the grass. So take your hands onto your lower belly. Big inhalation. As you exhale, without too much effort, not without effort, but without too much movement, take a little weight off of the left foot without putting extra weight into the right foot. This is going to help the belly wake up a little. So as long as you do not move the pelvis, just a little weight off the left foot will require the belly to stabilize. Let that go. And then do the other side. A little weight off the right foot. Allow for that stabilization. And then let that go. Back to the first side. A little weight off the left foot. You probably don't see a lot while I'm doing this, but I can definitely feel a lot here. It's a good way to begin a practice in general, just getting a little stabilization, waking up in there. Release. And then right side again, taking a little weight off of the foot, engaging in the belly. All right, and then release, extend the right leg. Now let's come to the left side. So bend the left knee, left hand on the knee, gentle circle. Right hand stays on the pelvis. So now as you're circling the thigh, encouraging a sense of stability in the pelvis, you can take your right hand onto the pelvis to help with that stability, remind you. And then switch directions. Starting with little circles, because it's actually very hard to keep stability, to have smooth circles. Oh, there, it's smoothing out a little bit now. All right, and then release. Have both knees bent, classic hip opener, left ankle over right thigh. Bring your hands to your hip points. Again, keep the hip points in line with each other. The tendency is for the left hip point to drop in the direction of away from the head, but keep the hip points even with each other as you bring your right knee towards the chest, getting the opening in the left hip. You might take your hands to the back of the thigh. You might take a strap. And as you hold the leg, give it a little circle, the right thigh. It's going to bring the left thigh into a few different positions. You might find an area where it feels a little tighter. You might find an area feels a little looser. You might find one spot you want to hang out for a little bit. And then release. And second side, right ankle over left thigh, left knee towards the chest. And a little circle with the left leg. And then release. And since we are here, it's always good, I think, from almost everyone I know, or everyone I know actually, maybe it's not good for some people, but pretty much everyone I know, to stretch out the back of the leg. So bend the left knee into your chest, swing the strap around your foot, extend your left foot up and away, reach through the heel, shoulder blades down your back, let your jaw soften, breathe. And then take both ends of the strap into your left hand, spiral your thigh externally, take it just a little bit off to the side, not a lot, not as far as you can, and then bend the knee. So you have a little rotation, extra rotation with the knee bend, and then straighten the leg again. Take it a little further out to the side. You can take your right arm out to the side to help balance. Keep the reach through the right leg, and bring your left heel closer to the thigh. And one more time, take the leg a little bit out to the left, a little more, and then bring your left heel closer to the thigh. So you may notice the restriction in doing this is the bend of the leg, or the restriction in doing this may be the position of the thigh bone itself. Either way, release, feel the legs next to each other. Let's do the second side. Bend the right knee, take the strap on your foot, extend the leg. It feels good to stretch out the back of my leg. I hope you have the same experience. Little circles. If you feel an ant crawling up your leg, I recommend taking the time to sweep it off. It's okay to do that. All right, then externally rotate the leg, take it a little bit out to the side, and begin to bend the knee, and then straighten the leg. Go a little further out to the side, foot into strap, strap into foot. Bend the knee, straighten the leg, and one more time, a little further out to the side. Bend the knee, straighten the leg. Okay, bring your leg back up, and release. Legs next to each other. Time for Tetrasana, moving your arms and legs around different directions. Explore the range of movement. And then roll on over. Come on to hands and knees. So you may have noticed that when we bent the leg, right, there was the element I mentioned of the hip movement, but also the ability to fold the leg, which has a lot to do with the calf. So let's do a little Dimak Ausen. Take your left knee onto your right calf and find a spot. There's a spot where you feel maybe a little resistance. Hold that spot. You can come onto your forearms. Be careful not to sink into the rib cage. And exhale. Find another spot. Ooh, I've been walking a lot on pavement, so I find some good spots in there. And another spot. And I like to hold. Sometimes people like to move around, but I like to hold a spot, especially when I have a spot that I realize has become kind of habitual gripping. And find one more spot. It might be on the side, not right directly on the back of the calf. And then release. Take a moment, child's pose. Considering the fold of the leg. Then come on up. Second side. Knee to the left calf. Find a different spot. And another spot. And another spot. And one more spot. That's a good one. And then release again, child's pose. Go slowly, considering the fold of how the calf and the thigh come together. And then come back up onto all fours and extend the left leg back. Come onto the base of the toes, reach through your heel, firm the shoulder blades. Be mindful of the rib cage. Rock a little back and forth, a little more opening for that calf. And then switch legs. Take the right leg back. Rock a little forward and back. A good opportunity for downward facing dog. So spread the fingers, tuck your toes under, lift your hips up, reach back, move towards straightening your legs. Bend your right knee and pay attention to the left leg. Shift the weight a little. From the base of the toes, it's going to open up different places in the calf. And then same thing on the right leg. Bend the left knee. Shift your weight around a little on the right foot, getting different spots in your calf. And slowly come back down to child's pose. But as you do, take your hands to your calves. Draw the calves a little bit away from the knees. Really fold the thigh and the calf together. And then come back up. And let's take a moment to lie down again. Just for a little kind of diagnostic of what we can expect in tree pose. So by that I mean what's going on the pelvis versus the thigh. So take your hand to your hip points. Bend your left knee. Keep the hip points even and then externally rotate the left thigh. Now notice how far can you go without tipping the pelvis. So you might bring your foot onto the thigh, that's fine, the sole of the foot onto the inner right thigh, and begin to take the left leg out to the side without tipping the pelvis, right? I'm sure you could bring your leg all the way to the ground or close if you tip the pelvis, but instead, pelvis really is kind of like the center branch from which another branch goes out in tree pose. So you notice when you do this that the leg is at a diagonal. It's not going to be touching the ground. Just like in tree pose, our leg will be at a diagonal. All right, bring the left leg up. Same thing, second side. Take your right foot to the inside of the left thigh. Keep your hands on your hip points and take the leg out to the side without tipping the pelvis, or let it tip. Notice what that feels like. Bring it back up. And release. Into a little Tetrasana. Move your arms and legs around different directions. And go ahead and roll over to the side. And grab your two blocks. Put the other stuff out of the way. And take your left foot forward between your hands into a lunge. So another way to open up the hips a little, get that back leg. So in tree pose, very important, the back leg is stabilizing. And the front leg is having the external rotation. So in this lunge, take your thumb to the top of your left hip point and give a little open spiral there. Reach long through the back leg. Breathe. Then take your right knee down, lift the left toes into a corner kick asana. Take the left toes out to the side. Externally rotate the left thigh. As you do that, bring your pelvis forward, but again, not how low you go, but can you keep your hip points even with each other as you lower down? You can be on the blocks. You might bring your hands onto the ground. Just exploring that hip opening. Maybe little circles. This is not trying to have the most crazy flexibility here, but more getting mobility to be able to move with ease and comfort. Okay, let's come back up. Turn your left foot forward. Now that we did that opening, it's a little more stabilizing. So lift your toes, root down with the base of your toes, your heels, and take the arms on up. On the exhalation, take your left hand to the right side of the belly and spiral to the left. Right hand to the outside of the left knee, left hand behind your back. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, spiral. It requires stability in the hip joint. And then go ahead and unwind. And either your choice, child's pose or downward facing dog. And then second side. From child's pose, either come up. From downward facing dog, come down. Bring the right foot forward between the hands into the lunge. Tuck your back toes under. Reach through the left leg. Breathe. Keep the back leg very active. Then lift the toes of your right foot. You can see me doing that. The blocks aren't hiding. Externally rotate the right thigh. Bring the left knee onto the ground. So you're in external rotation of the right leg. Place your hands either on the blocks. You might take the blocks lower. You could bring your hands onto the ground. And a slight movement, exploring the range of motion, the range of movement in the joint. Letting the body know that you can go into different positions here. But not focusing on going into super, super deep external rotation right now. Okay, and then we'll stabilize by bringing the right foot forward, standing on that foot. Inhale, arms up. On the exhalation, spiral to the right, left hand to the outside of the right thigh, right hand behind your back. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, spiral. One more inhalation. On the exhalation, unwind. Take your arms up. And then release. Back into child's pose or downward facing dog. Or another variation to lengthen the spine. And come into child's pose. Next inhalation, come up to sitting and do a little bit more with playing with the calf opening. So come into seated position with legs out in front, almost Dandasana. Knees are bent though. And take your hands to the back of your left calf and wiggle the fingers around in there. Another variation of Dimakausan. If you find a spot, hold it for a bit, spot where there's some resistance, some tension. And then extend your right leg, reach through the heels, and then begin to fold the left leg. So you might want to sit on some height if that works better for you. But bringing the calf to the thigh. And then once you're there, lengthen your spine. And then begin to take the knee out to the side. So the foot comes to the thigh. This is the beginning of Janu Shirshasana, forward bend, but similar to a tree pose position. You just want to hold it for a moment. Feel the fold, and maybe notice where there's resistance. Is there resistance in the fold of the calf and the thigh? Is there resistance in the rotation? You might have your knee higher. You could always put a block under your knee. Okay, and then release the leg back up and straighten the leg. Wiggle your toes a few times. And then second side. Bend the right knee. Check out what's going on in that calf. And then begin to fold, calf to thigh, and then rotate the thigh out to the side, bring the foot to the opposite thigh. Maybe notice there's a difference between the two. A lot of people talk about how the foot slips when they come up. So one part of the foot slipping is having the difficulty with the fold, because it's actually easier to put pressure into the opposite leg when there's a deep fold. And also when there's tension in its outer hip, it's hard to be able to press the foot into the thigh, thigh into the foot. So do that here. We didn't do it on the other side, but do that here. Press your foot into the thigh, thigh into the foot. Notice what that does to the spine. Does it help you lengthen a little? Okay, and then release. Wiggle the toes. I'm going to come back to the left side, but not with such a deep bend. Instead, go ahead and bend your knee. Take your ankle over your thigh. Another factor of tree pose is, right, having good solid roots of the feet. And so I'd like you to do is take your fingers between your toes and then hold onto the top of the foot and circle just the top of the foot. This is an area that often gets immobile from how we wear shoes and walk on hard surfaces. So getting all these little bones here helps when you balance, because balance is always, there's always movement in balance, and your foot is moving a little bit just to find the right way to stay upright. Then take your hand, your right hand, and bring it over the top of the toes. Keep your left arm stable. Shake the foot a little back and forth. Or rock it. And then take your thumbs to the bottom of the foot and just massage a little bit. Notice if there's a spot, again, that holds extra tension. Give it a little attention. And another aspect of balance, very connected to the foot, is your ankle. So what I'd like you to do is now hold your hands on your ankle and circle the ankle slowly one direction. Notice if there's a spot that's a little more challenging. So encourage the movement to really come from the ankle, not from the foot. This foot is moving because the ankle is moving. And switch directions. You see, one of the things about filming outside, the light is always changing. The sun is starting to come up over the house. So you might see a little bit different shadows happening now. All right, release that. Wiggle the toes. Second side. Right foot. Right ankle over thigh. Left thigh. Take fingers between your toes and circle. I really love doing this one. I find it makes a lot of movements so much easier and better. more fluid walking, standing, balancing. Switch directions, which is why I'm sharing this one with you. We could do a half an hour of just playing with the feet, which some of you have done already, but today just a little bit, getting all these different pieces to help build tree pose. And then take your hands to the top of the toes and rock back and forth. And then release. Wiggle the toes. And one more time, go ahead and bend the left knee. Get a nice fold of the leg. Press the foot into the thigh, thigh into the foot. Use that to get some length in the spine. Right. And then release. Second side. Fold. Find the calf, fold the calf. Foot into thigh, thigh into foot. Press to get length. Now, find your strap. We're going to add onto this. I said one more time that way, but now one more time with the strap. So again, fold the leg, take it out to the side, press the foot into the thigh, thigh into foot, and this time, take the strap up. Get the length in your spine. Breathe. And then release. And second side. Bend the knee, fold the leg, foot to the thigh. Find your strap. Take the arms up. Breathe. And release. All right, I am ready. Well, one more hip opener. One more hip opener. Wiggle your toes. Now take your left ankle over your knee, over your thigh, and begin to bend the right leg. So, looks like this when you're coming from the side. It's like doing the figure 4, but seated. And I'm a little inclined, and that put me upside down, so I'm going to go this way. Getting that rotation. Hold on to the shin, get the length in the thigh, spine. And then release. Wiggle the toes, second side, ankle over thigh. Begin to bend the knee. Get a little more of that rotation in the thigh. And then release. Good. And find your way to standing. It might be through downward facing dog. It might be hopping up. Whatever way works for you. I'm going to come into downward facing dog to forward bend to standing. But make your way. Back into mountain pose. Take the arms on up. Open up the chest, interlace the fingers. Reach nice and long. Release your arms. Roll the shoulders a few times up and around. So as you see the sun is starting to move, I am going to take a moment to move a little bit to the side, get a little bit out of the sun. Taking you with me. You can stay in mountain pose as the transition happens. Great. So that's a little better, I think. So back into mountain pose. Feet grounding, spine lengthening. So we've done a lot to open up the hips to prepare. We've done some spine lengthening, some footwork. So you might feel the mountain pose feels a little different. Feet grounding, spine lengthening. One thing that is really important for tree pose that we haven't spent a lot of time on yet is stability. The stability in the side hips, because when you stand on one leg, you need a lot of stability here. So to build that stability, go ahead and get a block. And if you need a little help for balance, please stand by a tree or something else. And come up onto the block and play with mountain pose. Take your hand to the hip. using the stability here to stand. And then go ahead and release. And second side. Trying to keep the feet at the same height, which really requires a lot of strength in this side glute muscle. And then come on down. Now to add to that, come back to the first side. So stand on your right leg. That's how we did first. And we'll add the hip lists to that. So I feel like I'm coming out of the camera as I stand. This is a very tall block, but you can still see me. So hand on the hip. What we're going to do is you're going to lift your left hip by taking the right hip down and then come back to neutral. And do that at least 4 more times. The left hip comes up because the right hip goes down. 3, 4, and 5. And if you have a few more in you, go ahead and do a few more. If not, take a moment in mountain pose. Release. And then switch sides. So work towards doing a minimum of 5. You might do more. You lift the right hip by drawing the left hip down. And you bring the feet back to about neutral. 4, 5. Then if that was enough, stop. Otherwise, do a few more. And then release. Take mountain pose for a moment. Feet grounding, spine lengthening. Breathe. So as the light has shifted, I found another place to be. Trees can't move like that, but they can take the light from all different angles. The camera cannot. So here I am by some other trees. There's some oak trees, elm trees, there's some lilac. Join me here in mountain pose. Lift the toes. Feel the base of your toes, your heels. Ground down. Lengthen the spine up. Bring your hands to the outer hips. Take your feet a little bit wider. And after we woke that area up a little bit, let's rock a little side to side here. And I'd like you to feel how the muscles shift a little based on the weight change. And then take your left foot forward. Just switch a little diagonally. Just to feel how things move. And then take your left foot back. Move a little diagonally. And because that stability is so important, I want to go back to that one more time with the block. So find whatever you need for balance, because this is about really strengthening this outer hip area. And stand with your left foot on the block. And find mountain pose with the right foot and left foot. So we're not sinking, you're using the stability to hold. Reach through the heel, lift your toes on both feet. Root down to lift up. Bring the toes back down. And then 4 more of these hip lifts. Take the left leg down to lift the right hip up, or the left hip down. 2, 3, 4, 5, And if you want extra challenge, fancy switch on the block, one foot to the other. Otherwise, take a break and come down. And then find mountain pose again on one leg. And then shift down to up. And then come back to mountain pose. And if you want, try it on the block, where the feet have to be together if your block is the narrow one. And then release off the block. Take your legs wide, put the block off to the side. Legs wide, big asana, arms wide. Take your hands to your hips, left leg goes out, right leg goes in. And bend the front knee. So a little stabilization in the standing poses here to prepare for the tree pose. And this combines the stabilization as well as the hip opener. So root down with the back foot, lengthen up with the spine, external rotate the top of your left thigh. Virabhadrasana 2. Breathe. And then come back up, bring your hands to your hips, left leg in, right leg out, bending the front leg. Warrior 2. And then come back up, turn your right leg in, walk the feet together. And then take your hands again to this outer hip. Let's shake it a little shimmy. And then bring your weight a little more onto your left leg and lift the right foot. And play around with moving in different directions. Explore, sometimes I call this triasana. Noticing that you really need to use this outer hip on the left side to support movement in different directions. If you're up for it, take your arms around as well. Explore. And release. And second side. Start with just the leg, moving around different angles. And then move the arms as well. Back into mountain pose. Interlace your fingers, reach your palms forward. Take your arms up to the first stopping point. Arms up to the second stopping point. Release the fingers, ground down to lift up. From the space between your shoulder blades, look up. Take the arms out to the side. Back into mountain. Now it's time for our traditional Vrikshasana tree pose. The birds are even saying, I'm excited for Vrikshasana. So go ahead and shift your weight onto your right leg. Bend the left knee a little bit. Find that stability. So instead of sinking, lift up. Then that rotation we've been working on. Let's rock a little in and out. And hold there a moment. Now bring your toes to your ankle. Keep that support in the hip to keep the length in the spine. And maybe take your foot up a little higher. Maybe take it even higher above the knee. Don't put the foot on the knee, either below or above the knee. Don't want that pressure in the knee ligaments. And like we did seated, press the foot into the leg, leg into the foot. Nice fold in the thigh. Bring your palms together over your heart. Breathe. Consider what trees resonate with you. These days I'm really into Midwestern oak trees. Take your arms on up. They're a little bit different than the California trees, I've noticed. Vrikshasana tree pose. maybe close your eyes. Whoa. And then release. Take a moment, mountain pose, and then second side. So give a little reminder to the left hip, spiral the thigh, a little rocking in and out. And then take the foot to whatever height is best for you. Play with your balance. Maybe palms together, maybe arms on up. Maybe eyes closed. Maybe eyes open. And then release. We're going to do this one more time, one more tree pose. But before, shake a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit more of neurological things for balance. So we'll do a little bit of eye movement. So some of you know that looking to one side helps improve your balance. So if that's the case, just focus on that side. Otherwise, do both sides. So we're going to do the big H. Bring your fingers right in front of your nose, maybe about 6 inches. Don't move your head. And then take one finger out to the right. Watch the finger. Don't move your head. Take it up a little. Watch the finger. Take it down. Bring it back to center, lateral center, and bring it back to neutral. And then do the same thing on the other side unless you know that one side is better for you, which I know for me. I'm going to do it again the same side. And then release. Feet grounding, spine lengthening. One more time. Vrikshasana. Come right into it. Bend the right and left knee, spiral the thigh, take the foot below or above. And this time, you might choose to stay in the more stable traditional posture or explore the way your branches might move in the wind or slowly grow over time in different directions. This would be having one of those cameras on it that shows how it grows over years, but maybe. You might again practice with your eyes closed. Notice the difference, how your foot relates when your eyes are closed. And pretend there's a big gush of wind, and the tree has to move with that. Or then just a nice, simple, calm day to be a tree. And then release, shake and shimmy. Second side, bend the right knee, spiral the thigh, foot below or above the ankle. Again, your exploratory tree. Maybe the branches are moving different directions. Maybe they're flowing. Just take a little time to explore. Your tree might be here too. Your tree might be here. So many different trees. You've seen a few today as I've moved in different locations. Maybe eyes closed. Maybe the leaves blowing in the wind. Just a little bit longer. Find your tree. And then release. Take your feet a little bit wider and 3 circles to the left. 3 circles to the right. Come back to center. Mountain pose. And then become the river going down the mountain and flow your way down to the ground, however you get there. Take a moment, cross-legged, right leg, left leg in front of right. Sit bones ground, spine lengthen, a gentle twist. Take the left hand to the right side of your navel. Nice inhalation. And on your exhalation, spiral. Right hand to left knee, left hand behind your back. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, spiral. One more inhalation. On the exhalation, unwind. Switch across of your legs. Same thing, second side. Right hand to the left side of the navel. On your exhalation, spiral, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind your back. Breathing. One more inhalation. And unwind. Sit bones ground, spine lengthen. And breathe your way, move your way towards lying down for Shavasana. Do whatever movements feel appropriate to prepare you as you extend your legs. Take your arms by your side. Close your eyes. Watch your breath. And let the breath guide you to Shavasana, to relaxation. And then, slowly and gently, bring your awareness back to your body, back to your breath. Bring a little movement to your fingers. Bring a little movement to your toes. Reach a little through your arms and reach a little through your legs. And then bend one knee at a time. Roll over to your side. And make your way back up to sitting. Find a place where your sit bones ground, your spine lengthens. Bring your palms together over your heart. And may the exploration of balance and strength that the trees around me, the trees around you, share with us, support us to be able to cultivate those qualities in ourselves, and also laugh when they don't quite go in the way we want them to. All right, so may the practice we've done ultimately support us to experience a greater sense of comfort, joy, ease, and freedom. Namaste. All right, thanks for watching and practicing. As you see, there's many different elements that go into building a tree pose, and we covered some, not all, but I think as I talked about, I think some of the basics are really having foot mobility and hip stability. Those are huge. And then there's, of course, the mobility and how much you can externally rotate your hip and how much you can fold the leg. All the while keeping the spine nice and long and breathing. Another thing I want to share with you is you may have seen me brushing things away some of the time during this session. There are a lot of bugs in wooded areas in Minnesota, and I'm often reminded of a story a friend told me who was on a yoga retreat someplace, I think, and they were told as part of yoga is to withdraw your senses from the outer world and pay only internal attention. And so whenever she would feel a bug, especially on Shavasana, she would just let it be there. And then she came out of Shavasana with many, many mosquito bites. So I have chosen not to follow that path. You get to choose what's right for you, but just to let you know, I'm not smashing at the mosquitoes, but I am gently sending them away in other directions. I'd rather do that than come out of Shavasana with a lot of little critters having bit me. All right, till next time, aloha from Minnesota.